Hey folks, Nathan here. Welcome. This is, of course, a PlayStation VR live stream. Lots of stuff here on the channel, mostly Star Wars stuff, but when it comes to gaming, it has been PlayStation VR that has sort of fundamentally transformed my gaming experience, to borrow a phrase from a previous president. And every time I see something that is a new game that I try out, I try to jump in and do a live stream if I can, if time permits and if it is feasible. Hey, James? So in this case, we're going to be taking a look here at The Persistence. I gotta admit, this is probably one of the most addictive new games that I have played on PlayStation VR. It is extremely impressive. Now you'll notice here I am targeting by where I look, but this is a DualShock 4 controller game. This is not a game that uses Move controllers. This is not a game that uses the PlayStation Aim, which is, you know, good yet bad. You know, some people are like, oh, there's no Move controllers, I just won't play. This is a game that really needs the precision you can get out of a DualShock 4 that you really can't get out of the Move controllers. Okay, so let's jump in. Now you notice I'm continuing an existing campaign. There's a survival mode that you can unlock. My goal here is to give you a sense of how the game plays and what is unusual about it. But to do that, I wanted to wait until I was a bit into the game so it wouldn't just be, hey, like most people do the live streams, hey, here's like the first hour of the game, where you don't get a chance to really see much of anything because it takes a while to build up. So you don't see your body, you see your hands though. I don't know if you can see my hands because of the nature of the way that the PSVR streaming works. But you have essentially, you move with your left analog stick. You turn either smooth or, in my case, I do the incremental one, so it's less likely to get me motion sick and I can play for longer with your right analog stick. Then you've got square uses this harvester that you have to basically zap. It's almost like a taser. It fires little prongs on ropes or prongs on wires into the back of an enemy's head and sucks out their stem cells that you can use to upgrade yourself. It's one of the currencies in the game. Not bad so far, just incredibly busy. Let's see, triangle activates your super sense, which essentially lets you spot hazards. They show up as red, none in here. This is Deck 2's initial starting point. Circle, see more of that later. X does allow you to teleport to where you're pointing, but you have a limited resource. So if you look here on the left, there's 3 different power bars here. The second one is your health, the one in the middle. The bottom one is your so-called dark matter that lets you use super sense. Notice as soon as I used it, it dropped. But also lets you teleport. Okay? When it runs out, dark matter depleted. You can't do anything, but it does after a second refill itself. And then that top bar is a shield that is your left trigger, that if you do it at just the right time, it shocks the enemy and pushes them back, but it also helps deflect damage. Your right trigger, R2, is going to be a melee or using whatever weapon you have. Your L1 button shows you your objectives. I've done objectives 1 and 2 out of 5, which allows me access. Well, I mean, you can always sort of access the decks if you work your way towards them, but it will be easy to get between decks 1 and 2, and the biggest challenge will be on 3. There are 3 different currencies you're going to have in the game to keep track of. Fabrication chips, and then stem cells, and then Erebus tokens, and we'll take a look at what each of those do as we go. Notice the objectives are checked off here. We'll talk about that momentarily as well. And then your R1 trigger is going to let you choose whatever items you have. Notice here, I just started this life, so to speak. So I've just got the harvester. It is blue. It's an upgraded harvester, but it is just the harvester. And then for the most part, your D-pad doesn't really do anything except the right button turning on and off your flashlight, or your torch, as they call it. All right, so the general gist is that this ship, the Persistence, has been basically, it's wound up next to a black hole. And in being next to the black hole, it is screwing things up. This is our map, okay, which is done by clicking on the touchpad. Now, what's interesting about this ship is it is essentially modular conceptually. So anytime you start a new life, we'll call it, we'll deal with that here in a minute, exactly how that works, or as you switch between decks on a new life, the ship essentially rearranges itself. It's made up essentially of building blocks of certain types of rooms and such, but the actual layout changes constantly. It is a procedurally generated ship. You never quite know what enemies you'll encounter, what rooms you'll encounter, what path you'll need to take, so you're going to be constantly referencing your map to know exactly where you want to go. You're going to be constantly using your super sense to spot enemies before you come up on them, and so on. You do have these different spots marked on the map. These are your fabricators, where you can create things with fabrication chips, kind of like a 3D printer or a replicator in Star Trek. You have your lifts that go, or these teleportation portals that go to the different decks. Research deck is where you start. Each level is going to have some type of supply crate located somewhere. It's like a challenge room where you can get some good rewards. You'll have some type of goal on that deck. I've already done this goal, but it's the star drive on this deck. And typically, let's see, is there one on this one? Looking here, typically there is also going to be... Nope, I'm not seeing it. Typically there will also be a room with a defense system that you can access, that in the process of not only helping to protect the ship, which you really don't need to do. I mean, it's not like the ship's going to be destroyed by asteroids or something. But it gives you a boost to your shield. There's also generally a medical room that is a safe room where you can heal up, where there's not going to be any enemies to deal with. But it's all procedurally generated. People refer to this oftentimes as a rogue-lite or a rogue-like. I tend to prefer the term that I saw another... I saw a video game journalist coin a while back, and yes, I am collecting by looking at it, and I am crouched, which is a procedural death labyrinth. I like that name for this type of game. Alright, so here's a guy. I go up behind him, and boom! I use my harvester. I suck up his stem cells. Now, a lot of this game is going to be about looting. You're going to spend a lot of your time looking at and collecting stuff. Because in essence, the gist of the game is that the ship itself, the crew is all basically dead. Okay? But some of you manage to essentially store your memories, store your minds in the computer as a backup. And the system has the ability to essentially 3D print a cloned body for you, and then insert your memories into it that are constantly being backed up. So when you die, you're essentially just coming back as a clone. But all the gear that you have acquired, all the stuff that would be on this screen, is lost because that was on the body that just died. Whereas your stem cells, your fabrication chips, your Erebus tokens, your currencies, and any permanent upgrades you've made to your clone template, or to the gear you can use in the starting room, all of that will stay with you. So in essence, the game is about grinding in a lot of ways, right? Grinding to the point where you can have really good gear, really good stats to get through and get these 5 objectives done, hence the persistence, right? Be persistent. But it never quite feels like any of your journeys are wasted. Let me check and see where I am even. It never quite feels like any of the places you're going are wasted. Do I want to go to the comms deck, or do I want to... It says there's a supply crate in here. So maybe I'll just aim for the supply crates. Why not? So forward, and then at least forward a couple of rooms. It never quite feels like any of your attempts are wasted, even if you die, because you are still gaining those currencies every time you play. Get back here. Woo! He almost turned. You can only hit him from the back with that thing. Now you'll notice that the one thing that is both cool and frustrating about the sound design is that it's really good at sort of letting you hear the creatures. Ugh. The problem is, that you hear them from so far away that sometimes it feels like it's giving you, groaning enemies when they aren't actually anywhere close enough to do you harm, which causes a heightened sense of anxiety even in some rooms where, that room and several around it have all been cleared. Same thing with the music. The music sometimes reaches a point where it's like, dun, 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 but there's not really any reason for it. It's just sort of a musical loop. Now, this is your fabricator. Your fabrication chips, fab chips will work with these. So what you've got is all these different weapons and all these different types of things. You got a firearm fabricator, a grenade one, an experimental ability one, and so on. All these different fabricators. Your Erebus tokens, as called, there's the 2 currencies listed there, Erebus tokens and fab chips. Okay, stem cells are not listed here. Your Erebus tokens can allow you to unlock something for the first time to be able to produce it, not just to give it to you using an Erebus token. To fabricate it, you use the fabrication chips. Well, so in this case, if I want the Storm Fury, I can fabricate it for a cost of 500. The Needle, 1,500. The Sentinel, 1,500. The Valkyrie, 250. All because of how much I've upgraded them. And I can go to an upgrade page and see the upgrade paths for each weapon. These 2 are upgraded as high as they can go. This one barely at all. This one a little bit further. And essentially choose one, and I can upgrade based on that balance of Erebus tokens. I'm going to go ahead and grab, heck, I don't know, I'll grab the Valkyrie. Why not? It's cheap. Well, nope, not upgrade it, just get it. Okay. It creates it for you. You grab it. Now it's part of your inventory. Okay. You can use it, use that, whatever. There are melee weapons, but normally you're just smacking people with your harvester, but there are melee weapons that you can get. There are these bloodhounds that come after you with very devastating results. But in essence, I'm just going to kind of show you a death here, because I just want to show this game quickly. In essence, you're going around, you're grabbing fabrication chips, you're grabbing stem cells, you're grabbing Erebus tokens, you're fighting these guys. Kill me. You can zap them. I'm doing it between, but there you go, see. Come on, kill me. Come on, man. Aren't you stronger than that? Come on. Yeah, I've upgraded the character a little bit for health. Come on. Come on. Alright, so now I'm disconnected. Which means that the body is dead. My weapon that I just bought for cheap so that I can show you that it disappears is gone. Normally, you can just choose the one body to come back as, but as you find crew members and take their stem cells and enter them into the system, you can come back by spending stem cells on these upgraded bodies.
Fuck it. You were close, I think.
When you come back,
maybe we can upgrade.
This is your starting room. You have suits, right? So the things that can add to your weapon power, your loot grabbing or whatever, that as you get blueprints, you upgrade and develop these, but you do have to spend fabrication chips to actually create them, but you can choose your suit. You can upgrade your super sense. Mine right now is on this upgraded version of super sense that changes how much it costs and how long it works. Your teleporter, you can do things with its range. Like I've got a really nice 55 range, -6 dark matter cost, or -11 dark matter cost, and 51% range, but I haven't actually constructed it yet because it costs quite a bit to make. But I've got the blueprint for it. Same thing for your force field, you can upgrade it. Same thing for your harvester, you can upgrade it. That's what I'm working on now, is trying to get to the point where I upgrade the harvester to that epic level. And to get the blueprints, sometimes it's just killing an enemy. Oftentimes it's finding a supply crate inside one of those challenge rooms. But these are available to you as essentially default options, so that every time you die and come back in your new clone, it fabricates whatever you've chosen out of these options, or you can manually switch to it over here, but you do have to spend fabrication chips to access them in the first place, and you have to find the blueprints to be able to use them at all. And you've also got, that's where you come back every time you die. You've got your DNA sequencer uses stem cells, where you can permanently upgrade your health, the amount of dark matter you have, your melee damage, and your stealth ability. In this case, my next one is probably going to be melee damage, but it cost me 7,500 and I'm not there yet, right? But again, even though everything else you lose, your Erebus tokens, your stem cells, and your fabrication chips, so the things that you use to upgrade your gear, to upgrade yourself, your clone templates, so that every time you come back as an improved clone, the stuff you use to come back as a different clone than just Simmery, who is the default clone you come back as, and the currencies that you would use to fabricate things out in the world, you keep. It's just the gear itself that you have fabricated or picked up for that particular body as you're running around that gets lost when you die. You eventually can also find... Let's see if I can go back. You can eventually also find these little keys, like card key type things. So like I just jumped to... No, you notice here, this is not what Deck 2 looked like originally when I came down, right? Originally I was going forward and turning right. The entire map is completely different. Now there's a defense generator over here like I was talking about that wasn't on the previous map. There's my supply room. I actually really like... Or wait, let's see, terminals? Yeah, one of those is a supply crate, I think. Yeah. This one I particularly like as a challenge because it's just an easy one to do. But you can find little card keys so you can always go back to that floor. So like usually, like if I want to go to comms deck, I've got to go to that comms deck lift and actually travel there manually. But if I go to the comms deck and eventually get a supply crate that has or do something that gives me a key card, that key card would allow me to put it into that teleporter in that starting room and go straight to this deck if I want to. Although it's not always necessarily the most advisable thing, because if you're coming back right after you die, you don't have any good gear. You can purchase good gear, but you're not going to really have much yourself. Let's see. Okay, so I want to go right-hand door, left-hand door. I'm trying to do this fairly quickly because I've been feeling a little ill today and I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm not able to continue streaming. Thank you! I'll just come back and access this stuff. The rooms don't get refilled with enemies or anything. Uh-oh. Is this the room I want? Good, it's not. I don't want to deal with that. That's a berserker in there. That's another large enemy type. You can see there. For them, the easiest thing to do is teleport behind them, immediately turn a 180, and then take their stem cells. Shit, and there's a guy in here. And I have no weapons, you'll notice. Which way do I want to go once I'm in here? I want to hang a right. He's over there. Hopefully he doesn't see me. I mean, not that it matters. I mean, I could just kill the guy. Uh-oh, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. I'd rather... Oh, shit, one of these guys, too. Wait, did I just turn around in the same room? Crap, I need to go this way. Yeah, somehow I just turned around and went to the wrong room. The doors do turn yellow once you've actually gone that way. Shit, it's one of them. And him. Shit, shit, shit. Those... Ah, shit. I hate that woman. I am not trying to actually do the rooms. I'm just trying to show you guys a challenge. For the love of crap. So that's the room I was just in. Oh, crap. She came around that way. Itch. Oh, cool. Escape Artist. So this is an ability that basically, it's one of their special experimental abilities. If you use it, it automatically throws you to a... it automatically teleports you to a safe place. Okay, so I want to go back in there, and I need to go to the far other end of the room, not be an idiot this time. Although, really, I mean, I could take that guy out with the harvester. I just don't want to waste the time to do it, because like I said, I haven't been feeling all that great today. Aw, shit. I can't get through this little spot. shit, he sees me. And I can't stand up. Motherfucker. Two. There, he's dead. Okay. Yeah, basically, on the second floor, that guy takes, I gotta find some health, though. On the second floor, that guy basically takes 3 hits. 2 of which could be using the harvester to get some stem cells from him. Oh, another one, swarm droids. That's a new type of weapon. Or another type of weapon. Come on. Oh, there's a schematic, right? So next time I go back to the starting room, there will be a schematic. There will be a new item that I can fabricate if I want to. But that's the thing. I mean, even if I had died, I mean, I've grabbed a few things. Even if I die now, there's stuff that I've gotten now, right? I can fabricate. Let me show you what we can do here. So, like here, escape artist and invisibility ability. Time warp lets you slow down time. That one's not unlocked yet. I would have to use Erebus tokens, like I use an Erebus token. Now I can purchase it to use it. Reaper's a favorite. It's basically a teleportation device that basically kills whoever you teleport into, very much like Doom VFR. And another one of those ugly mugs. Only this time, I don't have a whole lot of health to deal with them. Is there health in here? Oh, sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay, so he just jumped up to the top floor. Now he's back on this floor. Hopefully he will go back upstairs in a second. There's a challenge room. This challenge room is extremely easy, I find. If you got enough health, which right now I don't, so it may wind up being more challenging than it is intended to be. Go upstairs there, big boy. Thank you. Okay, so here's the first challenge room. There are different types of challenge rooms. Shit, close the door! Yeah, there are different types of challenge rooms you can get. So there's some stuff. Close the blast shield! Close the blast shield! But in this case, ooh, I may still die. It is quite possible. Shit. Well, we'll see. Okay. Like I said, it's easy if you've got enough health. The idea basically is that this is a low pressure area, and I have to just get through it without, you know, dying. Because, yes, so try as much as I can to use my, come on, come on, come on, come on. Woo! I am barely alive. Look at that. Woohoo! But I got to it, which means I get whatever is in the challenge crate. Which in this case is Time Warp, Fabricator, well, that sucks. I mean, Time Warp is nice. Oh, wait, no, I guess I could use Time Warp now. No, not Time Warp, Time Warp, Time Warp. Wow, that's nice. Escape Artist. Take me to a safe place. Where'd it just take me? In here. Yeah, so it was a way to get out of there without having to walk back through that extremely dangerous area, so I could still at least pick up a few more things before I die. But again, that is essentially the persistence. You're playing so that you can constantly grab stuff that you can then use. Some of which you use on that life, some of which you use on other lives. So it will feel disappointing when you've got a life where you've gathered up a whole bunch of great stuff and then you die. There's some health. Not much, but some. But at the same time, there will also be instances in which you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this run to get loot and use that on my next life, so I don't really care about this life, right? It just kind of depends on how you're playing. But yeah, this is definitely one of, to answer that question there, this is definitely one of the most addictive and enjoyable survival horror experiences that I've played for for PlayStation VR. And I gotta be honest, this is a game that I get lost in for hours. And I don't mean lost as in not knowing where to go. I mean, like, you know, my wife will be going to bed at like 10 or 11 o'clock, and I'll be like, okay, well, I'm just going to play for a little bit, and I'll pop it in, and I'll finally take the headset off when I get to a point where I decide to make myself stop, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, and I've played for 3 to 4.5 hours. It's just a very addictive, enjoyable experience. I think part of it is that when you're trying to go get the loot to upgrade yourself, it never feels like a run, even if you die, is wasted, because you've picked up some things that are going to help you. It never feels like every run is the same, because the layout significantly changes each time. And your checkpoints, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. So notice I died, but the objectives are still marked. This isn't like you're dying and going back in time. The objectives you've done are still done. You've still fixed those parts of the ship. It's just that that body carrying that gear has died. So now, like, say you were on Objective 3 and you have to be on the 3rd floor to do it, now you're going to have to trudge yourself back to the 3rd floor, unless you got a key card for the 3rd floor, to go up there and do, or 3rd deck, to go up there and do that thing. And actually, the objectives themselves are not too difficult. It's not so much the objectives that are the tough part, it's getting there and surviving along the way. You can sneak your way there, as you just saw, you can confront the enemies, and a lot of times that decision is not based on how far you are into the game, it's just based on how much gear you've got. And if it feels like this is a game where you're going to have to constantly hoard your resources to constantly buy new gear every time, I've had runs where I would drop in, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I can't yet. I've had runs where, like, let me see, can I just go back to the research deck, because I don't really want to keep playing at this moment, but I don't want to die either. I've had runs where within the span of the first, you know, several rooms of deck 1, I've wound up getting several useful weapons and all kinds of useful items and all kinds of stuff right there on the first deck. Because, again, it's procedurally generated, so there are times where you might luck out, and it's a run where you get a lot of stuff very early. It doesn't always come out feeling fair. I will say that every once in a while you will run into a situation where maybe the room that you're in, or sorry, the layout of the map of the room order will not feel like it's fair. Like maybe it's a much longer way to get to where you want to go this time than it usually is. But that's just sort of a luck of the draw sort of thing. It's definitely not something that feels particularly unfair. All right, so I'm back on research deck now. Okay, so now I'm back on research deck. Recovery is where I want to go to make sure I've saved everything. This is the deck below. These guys are kind of trippy because they're basically, they operate primarily by sound, but they've got, so yeah, like I'm on deck 1 right now. Check it out. Deck 1 just gave me the Sentinel. Deck 1 just gave me a handgun. And typically, even though that you may not have all the ammo in the weapon, whatever one you pick up is going to be whatever level of upgrade you've given it. So like I've got my Harvester, I've got the Swarm Droids, Time Warp ×2, the Sentinel, pistol, and I'm just, you know, every room you're in has tons of stuff that you can loot. You're not going to run out of everything on a permanent basis. Like, you may be low on things at a certain point, but you're not, like, for instance, you're not going to reach a point where you're like, okay, well, the game is broken, there's nothing I can do because I need better whatever, and I can't get better whatever because what I need is locked behind, you know, the number of missions I've played. You know, like, there are some games where it's like you get a certain reward for certain types of missions, and there's only a finite number of those missions, even though there's way more stuff to unlock than otherwise. Come on, baby. Hello. Ooh, and he gives me... Ooh, grab hook. Grab hook lets you grab things and throw it. It gets actually used in the next objective room I need to get to. I'm basically just trying to go to recovery to make sure I get back and It saves your progress each time you use one of the deck porters. But I just went back here because I wanted to show you that thing that I missed before, right? So, yeah, like you start out only being able to go straight to deck 1. But then I wound up finding a key card to permanently upgrade this initial portal to let me go straight to deck 2, which is the Star Drive deck. But I don't have ones for comms deck or engineering deck, so if I want to go to the comms deck, I've got to go to 2 and go to the place on 2 that sends you to 3, which would then, I could then find the spot that sends you to 4, and so on and so on. Again, I can upgrade. I don't think I've got enough here. Yep, I'm getting there, though, to upgrade there. And again, fabrication chips. Oh, I think I may actually be able to upgrade now. Go to my harvester. Yes, it costs 15,000 credits, but I can get me an epic harvester. So like my first harvester is no boost to the amount of stem cells you get from using it on an enemy and a 17 harvest rate. Whatever that is, like how fast you suck it out of the enemy, but whatever 17 means. But I found 2 level 2 schematics, 35% stem cell boost and a 25% harvest rate, or 36% stem cell boost, which isn't that much more than that, but a 29% harvest rate, and that's what I've been using. This gives me 116% stem cell boost and 11% harvest rate speed. And you can always compare to what you've got to kind of see. And now I'm going to spend, but this means I'm only going to have about 569 in order to, there we go, in order to later, see now it's in my inventory here, to later get access to, like, you know, maybe I want to go in and build a gun at a fabricator. Well, now I've only got like 500 to do that. You're going to rely more on finding stuff and the weapons you haven't upgraded rather than the ones you have, because now I'm low on fabrication chips. But you get them so quickly on just a couple of runs or so of, you know, looting every room and looting everything that you see, that it never feels like that hampers you so much that your progress just stops. It still feels like the progression is steady, even when you die or in this case, come back to this room to save. I mean, it's a fantastic, fantastic experience. If you're into survival horror, if you're into sci-fi, if you like the sneaking games, if you like feelings of progression that do provide still a challenge, this is definitely one to check out. It's not quite like a typical rogue game in the sense that when you die, you don't lose everything. You still have whatever you've upgraded here as your base items. You still have your upgraded self over here. You still have your ability to go between levels. And you still have your bank of stuff and your objectives completed. But your gear, your weapons, your grenades, your teleportation thing to safety like I used a little bit ago, those types of things, all of those are per run, only as you acquire them. And as soon as you die, they are simply gone. So definitely a challenging game. The closest thing I've ever played that feels like this was when I played Zombie U, which is now just Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I, on other platforms, but Zombie U on the Wii U. I really enjoyed this type, and it plays well. And conceptually, the idea of the modular ship frequently shifting as its computers that handle the shifts are messed up by the black hole out here. The idea that these zombies and creatures are happening because basically the DNA sequence, or not the DNA sequencer, the clone printers here are basically using messed up computer memory and spitting out mutated or incorrect clones over and over again to create these creatures. The idea that you can go and find the body of a dead crewman and suck up their attributes and whatnot to be able to come back in their body instead of this body and yet still retain your upgrades. I mean, it's really an ingenious way of taking a game that's really should be quite short, just 5 main objectives, right? And really is quite grindy, and making it not feel grindy and feel like every moment actually matters. Every run actually matters. Cannot recommend this one highly enough, even for those who don't like playing with a DualShock 4 controller when playing a PSVR game. It is on PlayStation Network Store, $30 when I picked it up on launch day, probably still $30 right now. If you're into this type of game, this is definitely one that you should check out. So this is, again, The Persistence for PSVR. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more PlayStation VR Let's Plays very soon. Probably one for Detached actually here today in just a few minutes, if time seems to be permitting. Again, I've lost track of time while playing The Persistence. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I would also note, I guess, one last thing before I say goodbye. There is an app for Persistence. So while you're playing in VR, somebody else could be using their phone or tablet in the app, and they can do things like open doors for you, turn on lights for you, try to block enemies or lure them away from you. They can also send enemies to kill you and otherwise screw you over, which makes for an interesting experience of asynchronous multiplayer, or asynchronous co-op, I guess you'd say. So for a procedural death labyrinth, The Persistence is brilliant. Check it out.